Hey everybody, welcome back to No Place Like Home, a North and South podcast where we talk about the power and magic of homemaking. I'm Mike and this is Megan, right here to my left. We are the parents of 9 kids, been married almost 26 years. We're glad you're here. Thanks for coming along. We've got some exciting things happening at the Norp house.
Yeah, we do.
Right? Today,
just like 30 minutes ago.
Minutes ago, Peter received his mission call. And if you don't know what that is, we're members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and typically kids that are 18 to 20 go on a mission for the church. And Peter's doing that, and you kind of turn in an application, and then they kind of look at your application, and the church assigns you a place to go serve.
And you don't have any say in where that assignment will be, except that you'd like, you kind of do it on 1 to 5, I think, scale of 1 to 5, how much you would like to leave the country, and a scale of 1 to 5 on how much you would like to learn another language.
Right.
And Peter put all the way up on both of those. He wants to leave the country and learn another language.
But by the time this airs, we will have already opened it, but he hasn't opened it yet. So you kind of get an email saying you can open your mission call now.
See your assignment.
It's kind of a big thing to open it and have other people there because it's a fun thing. So we're going to do it tomorrow night. Mm-hmm. And there will have been a recording on our YouTube channel about
stream.
that. Right.
Yeah.
So you can go back to the YouTube channel, which is Norp and South, and watch that if you want to. Otherwise, we're just all kind of like on edge now because we know the call is sitting there.
You could look and find out because he put his availability for a couple months from now, 3 months from now. 2 months, 3 months. There's so many people that apply this time of year for these assignments because school's getting out and things like that, that we don't know when he will go. We don't know where he will go. We know he'll be gone for 2 years.
We don't know anything.
So,
which is typical for us.
You can watch all of his other siblings that serve 2-year missions or 18-month missions open theirs on our channel as well. So this will be our 5th time.
Let's go around on this one. So it's exciting. And then also, this isn't really happening today, but it's coming up. We're going to go tour a couple more houses.
Yeah.
Up in Virginia. We're looking to relocate up there eventually. Hopefully sometime spring/summer.
We learned a new trick, though.
What's the trick?
The trick is that we screen share our app, our Realtor app, to the TV.
Oh, this is true.
We did it just to show the kids.
Yeah, this is a little tip right here.
Yeah.
For all you house hunters out there.
Yeah, we did it to show the kids. And the first house we threw up there to show them, when you could see it not on your little 2.5-inch screen.
Does anyone actually look on their computer at this stuff?
I probably. But we don't usually. You're laying in bed like, hey, new houses. I need a hit. I need a hit of a new house.
It's just dopamine.
Yeah, but I threw it up on the TV screen so they could all see it. And so we start scrolling and you're like, whoa. That looks a little rougher than it
I know. It's
amazing
screen. what kind of is revealed with the bigger screen because you can really see the details.
Well, because you shrink this little thing down and like the walls look great, the trim looks great, and then you expand it back out to your enormous TV. Our TV's not that big, but big enough that you could suddenly see like scratches and all the wood, and like you can see like one of the farmhouses we were looking at. It's like, oh, those floors are riddled with termites.
Yeah, they've been eaten away.
And so we wouldn't have seen that. I was like, this looks amazing. It just came on the market. And then we put it up on the TV. It's like, whoops.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's not worth seeing. But
You'd think
today,
after house hunting this long, we would have known that. But
yeah, today you did it again. Mike did it so much so that he put it up on the TV and then you stood like directly in front of the TV.
Yeah, I think it's just mostly because I'm old. My eyes need it.
And he like examined like one that we're going to see on Saturday. And
I had a magnifying glass as well.
Did it pass
up to the
muster?
TV.
Is that the correct way to say that? I'm really terrible with these turning your phrase.
You did a good job.
Thank you.
Yes, actually it did. It passed enough to go look at it. Now, also in person is a whole nother story, but we're going to go look at it.
Because you got your snaz when you go see something.
Because the smell can sometimes be off-putting, and you do see more details, obviously. So we're going to go look at that one on Saturday. Should be fun.
Yeah, that's an interesting one because some of the rooms look like very strangely laid out. Mm-hmm. So because you're always trying to in your mind create like a floor plan.
Because they don't usually have that.
I don't understand. This should be fun. I don't know where that room is. So, and we're going to go see another one that's like historic home that we've been looking at for a while. Our friends are like begging us to buy. But we have serious misgivings about it, even though it's historic and beautiful.
So anyways, you can go watch the YouTube channel. We'll have the videos on there.
Yeah. Esther's in town.
Yeah,
You didn't
that's
want to
true.
mention it because it was like you were in prison today.
I forgot. Well, I don't know if this is interesting, really, but Esther bought a car. She has her own car now. I was there for it. All
You were
6
there.
hours.
Yeah,
Of the
you were there forever.
Took forever.
Oh.
It's one of those things where like, okay, they take the paperwork and they disappear for like, feels like 3 hours, and they show back up like, can you sign this now? And like they disappear
They're
again.
like, we're just about done.
I know it took forever, but she has a car now, and it's a good, solid car. And
It's what every
happy
girl
for her.
dreams of having, and boy too.
Well, depending
Like
on
the
what boy
grandma
is.
car.
It's the one owner, older model vehicle, but obviously kept in a garage, barely driven. It looks immaculate.
She
even
might have
though
gotten your grandma's Camry because that's what she got.
It's a Camry. It's 12 years old, but it looks like it just rolled off the lot.
Yeah, it's
amazing.
beautiful. It's
So,
beautiful.
Really happy for her because it's obviously cheaper when it's that old, but low mileage and great shape. So yeah, Esther's on the road with her own car these days.
Yeah, she's
so
pretty
watch
fast
out.
about it.
All right, so we'll get into the topic today.
Well, we got a
right?
bunch of messages this week. Really, the nicest messages. Actually, we got like some paper messages this week. It was like a message in a bottle, though. A message from the past.
Yeah.
Because in the past, we had essentially a P.O. box.
Kind of, yeah.
And because people wanted to send us stuff, and we're like, well, we can't just give them our home address. I mean, that seems silly. So we got an address for a time, and then we were getting a lot of stuff. Sometimes we got mean letters, too. Yeah.
We got a couple
People
of those.
took the time to handwrite some mean letters.
A mean letter.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I think we got 2.
Going the extra mile on that one.
Anyways, but eventually we were moving, and we were like, we don't actually we feel kind of bad when people send us gifts, but we discontinued that mailbox.
Mm-hmm.
But people never discontinued knowing the address somehow. I don't know where it is. It must be on the dark web.
It's possibly my fault. I may have not gotten off our website soon enough. Possibly it was on there for a year without me realizing it. Now that I'm thinking about it.
Oh, really?
But, yeah.
Well, they
Anyways.
called us this week and said, hey, you've got some mail. We're like, oh, really? So Mike went and picked it up. Turns out one of you named Mackenzie wrote me a very nice, really kind letter to a year and a half ago.
Okay.
And you were probably like, Mackenzie, hey, that was really nice. I hope that, I don't know, something. Well, here's your something, because I just read it like 2 days ago.
She may not be watching anymore.
Yeah, I don't know. She's
lost-
like, you know what? You can just shove
Because
it.
you didn't respond.
I gave you my heart.
I know. I feel bad.
It was a really
so
nice letter. And then we also got like a box of like tea. And I'm like, oh no, I don't really drink tea. But it turns out they knew this specific kind of tea that I do drink, which is herbal tea. That's the only kind of tea I drink. And I got a big box of like incredible herbal teas. I'll share them on the channel in the future. I'm not prepared to do that now, but they sent them as a gift. And I've been wildly obsessed with them in the couple days.
Yeah. Really
that I've
happy
had
with
them.
it.
Yeah.
Anyways, get to the letter. Come on.
Oh, we got some reviews on the podcast, which was so nice of you guys. Some kind reviews, just like Mike requested and paid you
that's
for.
good. I
No, I'm
didn't
just
look
kidding.
at that. Yeah. Checks in the mail.
We got somebody that told us they have the perfect house for us, but it was actually in the wrong part of the state. But Jordan, you did send a really nice message. Very nice.
We will respond
It was just
to that.
really nice. But we got an actual question from the best named human ever, Jilly, thanks for sending
Jilly.
I said it 3 times because I love it.
She does love that name. She's commented that multiple times over the past week.
Yep. And you sent us a great question about homeschooling. And I'm assuming since you sent it, and you said you also commented with it, that you're okay with me reading it. But she said, I am a new homeschooling parent. My oldest is almost 6. We have always intended on homeschooling, but now that I'm in it, i.e. trying, it feels so much more difficult than I had imagined. I've been there. I have watched your previous episodes on homeschooling, although a long time ago. I should go back for a refresher. Absolutely. Just kidding.
Totally. Watch, like, comments.
And love the philosophy you school/live by. I had intended to take a similar unschooling path. However, it's so stressful being in it and having others question my choices that I have found myself deep in the curriculum files, stressed about the best one. You know that feeling. The whole day feels like a struggle, even after the schoolwork is done. I seem to start the day stressed about checking the subject boxes, and that tone carries throughout everything else all day. Here is the question. Knowing what you know now, and having all your lived experiences with unschooling, what would you do if you had to start all over again? Sorry for the long-winded backstory. I love what you guys are doing. Sincerely, Jilly. Thank you. In fact, that's going to be the whole subject of the whole podcast today. It's not just going to be a question answered at the beginning.
Although the title probably gave it away already,
Oh, yeah, so. You're right. That was a great question. It brought I can totally feel exactly where you are because I was in those moments. I remember it being a lot more difficult than I'd imagined. I remember having an intended path that I was going to take and then feeling incredibly stressed. And that seemed to affect the whole day, and into the evening, sometimes teary, at night in bed with Mike. And everything felt
Not
like...
much has changed, actually, turns out, over the years.
No, I was teary last night because my neck hurt. And Chat told me a workout I was supposed to do, and it sounded really hard. That's
Just
true.
different reasons
That's
for
true.
crying these days.
But I wanted that. And also, it was just it's really nice to be able to take some time, and Mike and I took some time and chatted about it this week, what we would do differently. It's kind of all together, what would we do differently? What do we regret? What do we wish we had known? All of the things that if you could go back in a time machine. This is the thing about this. I have things that I wish I had known. I have regrets. But so many of them only came through the school of experience. Mm-hmm. And so it actually...
pun there with school.
Oh, you're right.
Homeschool.
Yeah, I don't do those on purpose, but I'm glad that you caught it. I have so many things that I wish I could go back and tell my former self, but I also recognize that I don't know if I would have been ready for them. I don't know. Hopefully, I can share them with you.
You're going to be future girl here.
Yeah, I am going to be future girl
everybody.
For my past homeschooling self, and hopefully some of it rings true for you and lifts burdens for you and gives you some clarity as well. So I think first of all, you should know that Mike and I, if you didn't already, we're not homeschooled.
Nope.
We were very much public schooled in the 80s.
It wasn't even a thought. It wasn't even a consideration.
I didn't know anything
really know
like that
existed.
existed until maybe high school.
Yeah.
Maybe in high school was the first time I heard about someone homeschooling, and it was like, if I did, it was like on one or two occasions. And it was like something that
strange people did.
Strange people did.
And had no other options or
No.
whatever. Like it wasn't normal.
No, that we do say to each other now that like we would have loved to homeschool, both you and I.
Yeah.
Would have loved it.
Obviously, we think it's a good thing. So
we weren't homeschooled. We graduated from high school. I grew up in Texas in great school districts. Mike, you grew up in Idaho. Were yours good
horrible
school?
school districts.
Were
the
they good? I
worst.
don't even know if they were good.
I couldn't tell you that this was in Idaho. I was never aware of good or bad school districts.
Oh well,
I
yeah.
don't know.
Texas is very aware of that.
At least your part of Texas.
Yeah, they're always talking about like
I don't
your ratings
recall
and stuff.
that ever being any. It was just like you just went to whatever school you're assigned to. Like that just.
I think that means they weren't very good.
I don't know. This was Idaho in the 80s.
When a school finds out it might in some way
80s and
be a good
90s.
school, they're going to let you know.
That's true.
So we both went to college, did the normal college thing, still at no point considering homeschooling. Still didn't really know anybody who did that.
No.
But then I had Elijah, who was my oldest, and I think I've talked about this many times, but I realized what incredible power I had in his life. That like every question he asked me was whatever my response would like be laden with so much more than just the answer to that question. It's like his understanding of the universe and his place in it kind of feeling I had.
Yeah.
And
definitely.
yes, I'm an intense person. I recognize that.
Megan thinks deeply about everything.
Yeah, I was just like, oh my gosh, I'm completely like shaping his worldview. I realized that pretty early on with Elijah. And so when it came time to send him to school, I was like, suddenly I don't know if they did half day at that point, but I'm like, he's going to go and spend all of these hours with someone I don't know. And I know what power I have. And now I'm handing that over to someone else. Yeah. I don't have any idea what she's going to say or do. And so I, at that point, kind of expressed, I must have been more familiar with homeschoolers because I expressed to people around me that I kind of want to homeschool them. Mm-hmm. And you know, everybody was like, no, that's what you do if you're like living in a place where like the schools are failing, then you homeschool. But if you have great schools, you don't homeschool. I was like,
no need to.
I just feel really uncomfortable with this. And my fears were actually confirmed. I sent him to kindergarten, and his teacher was a brand new teacher.
Right out of college.
Yeah. And she was not very nice to him. Do you remember that?
Well, I remember she didn't, kind of. I mean, honestly, I was going to work.
Yeah, you're right.
I was getting this
She
secondhand.
was just like not a fan of him. He was getting in trouble for little things and she was telling me about it. I'm like, that doesn't seem like that big of a deal. And then like she said he needed like remedial classes. And I was like, really? He's really smart. You know, which I know this could all be set up as I sound like just a classic, you know, mom who thinks their son is the best. But
a mom whose name
I
starts
just
with a
didn't
K.
feel like she, you know, I could tell that like she chose who she liked and he wasn't one of them. And so I was like, man, that's a bummer. And then she got married at the end of the year. Like she was like, I remember coming there once and she was just like shopping for wedding dresses on her computer at her desk while the kids were like doing whatever, you know. I'm like, oh, impressive. But the next year I sent him to a different school. We had moved. Surprise, surprise. Yep. And it was an incredible lady who had been teaching for decades. And she was like what you dream of in a teacher. She was just so soft and kind, but also like really wise and like obviously knew how to keep.
She was seasoned.
Yes. And she knew how to keep the kids engaged, but without like fear at all, you know, just out of delight. Mm-hmm. And she adored Elijah. Mm-hmm. And I was like, okay. And I'm like, yeah, but so he has one great year. What about next year? You know?
Yeah.
And so it was actually, we moved again because we were there for a job. And my friend said, hey, I think I'm going to homeschool. And I was like, are you serious? And she was like, yeah, I'm going to use this program. I'm like, okay, I'll do it too. So he went to kindergarten and first grade. And then after that, we started homeschooling. I'm mentioning this because it takes a while to get to where we're at now. We started with the K-12 program because it was free. And they just essentially send you boxes and boxes of curriculum
materials,
and supplies,
yeah, lots of stuff
for you to use through essentially your public school system. Yeah. And
you're
it's
using those funds.
Yeah, it's free because you pay, I mean, I think it depends on the state, but you pay like $16,000 a year per child in taxes at a school. And so the like, you know, $300 of cardboard stuff they send you is your trade-in if you're going to homeschool. Yeah. But it was great because we were a young family. We didn't have a lot of cash. And it was like, okay, you just had to kind of check in with them. I don't remember how often. I remember it was laborious.
Yeah.
But you had to check in with them and say you were like taking attendance and they were completing their assignments and doing them well and stuff. And it was a nice, easy way in, at least to ease our minds.
Sure.
Because I had no idea what it meant to homeschool, except I got to keep them home. And I like teaching and I like talking, and so it seemed like a good fit. We did that for a couple of years, and then by our third year doing that, now Andrew was in kindergarten, and it wasn't working anymore. Mm-hmm. Nobody wanted to do it, and like we just had like these boxes, messy boxes now of all of these materials they kept sending us, like a mountain of materials. And you feel kind of weird guilt because you're like, am I really supposed to use all of these things that they're sending? Like, is it like, am I failing if I don't use every single supply they're sending? Am I really supposed to teach them to count numbers? Like they send a lot of these like long strips of cardboard numbers and I'm supposed to like cut them out and arrange them on tables. And it's like, do I really have to teach them to count that way? And so it wasn't working. Nobody wanted to do it. I was scared. We eventually went to a homeschooling store where we met with a lady and she said some funny quote like, do you know what we call people who do K-12? And I said, what? She's like, former homeschoolers. Like nobody does it. Nobody lasts. You're not like nobody. You either go back into public school or you switch out. It's just kind of a gateway either out or right back into school. So she helped me kind of what you called the curriculum files, Jilly. Mm-hmm. She talked to me for a while. She did these because, you know, it was in her interest. She owns all of these curriculums to sell to me.
Yeah.
And she kind of helped me narrow it down. I read and poured over so many books trying to figure out what my homeschooling philosophy was. And we got more curriculum, but hopefully better curriculum. You know, we started doing some things and you're talking to other homeschool moms. But I don't know. It wasn't any better.
No, it was this constant kind of battle where you would find something and then it didn't really work the way you hoped it would, so you go back to the drawing board.
It's kind of like dieting.
And then it's
like the promise is so exciting.
Yeah, so
like this diet, you know why other diets don't work? Because of this.
Yeah.
But this diet, buy our book and you will be so thin, you know. This diet is all the rage because it works, you know. And so you're like, okay, maybe the reason that we're struggling to get these things done is because it's the wrong curriculum and it just doesn't fit with this.
Wrong schedule.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I got this one. Yeah. I got so many things that were like, it was like on the front end, the promise of glory, you know, that you were going to have the most beautiful, and I set up the most beautiful homeschooling room. I like had this huge chalkboard, and I got all of these cute posters and
it was cute.
And a big school table exactly like this one.
It was Instagram worthy.
It was just like this one. Yeah, it was before Instagram. We had globes and we had science books, and I was like ready to go, and none of us wanted to be in there ever. Nobody wanted to go in the homeschool room. We all just, abandoned it after not too long. So I guess that was our homeschooling journey. And so actually at that point, we really were just kind of like secretly terrible homeschoolers. And it was like my constant burden. And you could see me burdened. Mm-hmm. And you were nervous too.
Yeah, because I hadn't experienced homeschool firsthand myself. I was a little skeptical that it was the right thing to do, honestly. And I wasn't sure where this whole thing was going. I'm like, are our kids falling behind? Is there going to be an issue here? You have like in-laws or parents or siblings or whomever kind of saying those things to you as well. So it was a little nerve-wracking. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember I had that gal at church was like, oh, when you first moved in and you said you're a homeschooler, I knew we wouldn't be friends. But like you ended up being okay. I was like, oh, wow, thank you. That makes me really anxious to be friends with you. So yeah, we got a lot of people out of love and concern for our kids and for us, encouragement not to homeschool. Mm-hmm. And you weren't there, so you couldn't really be in control of it, but you knew that you would come home to frazzled me.
Yes.
And that we had no experience, and so you were...
Yeah, so I was oftentimes like, okay, Megan, maybe we just need to pull the plug in this thing.
Yeah, because I would be like, and this is happening, and this is happening. You're like, then just put them back in school. You would always say that. Yeah, and I'm like, that cannot be the answer.
Seemed like an obvious solution here.
Yeah, I'm like, I want you to listen to this, but the solution can't be to put them back in school. So you're like, okay. So that was our first few years. We kind of hobbled along, but then through a series of different things that were going on, mostly... adopting Pearl and Esther from China, we put the kids in school. We were going to be gone for 3 weeks, and having somebody take care of our homeschool kids was a heavy burden.
For anyone, yeah.
For anyone, and we kind of had it communicated to us that it would be easier for them to help out and watch our kids while we were gone if they were in public school. And so we said, all right, they can go to school, even if it's for just a few weeks. I didn't really want to do that to the kids, but so they were in school, and it was really great for the girls. They helped with the English when they first came home, teaching them, and also our family we were like family, but we didn't know each other. And so it kind of gave everybody a chance to go during the day and have a break from the intensity of that, and then come home that night and be like, hey, okay, let's figure this out. And I don't mean that it was really bad. It was just,
Yeah, it's an adjustment.
Yeah. So while they were in school and throughout the summer after, I was reading all of these books, and I happened into an unschooling book. Now, I had heard of unschooling years before when I was looking into homeschooling, and it was kind of like, well, I'm in homeschool, but I'm not going to do that.
That's crazy.
That's like what the extremists do. That's what crazy people do. That's what like hippies do. And their kids end up ruined. And I think I read an article, I think in like the New York Times, probably not that because that's behind a paywall, but like in something about like some group of kids in New York City that had gone to like a, in quotes, school, but that was just like hippy dippy, you do whatever you want all day, and how terrible it was. And so I was like, oh, I'll never do that. It doesn't work. Well, I happened into a book about unschooling called Free to Learn. It was really nice. And it was just this sweet, it was more like a short memoir of her time of these few years unschooling her 2 kids, and then kind of with a postscript of like where they ended up. And I was like, wait, this is not at all... This just sounds really nice, actually, and it makes a lot of sense. And then I read another book on unschooling, and I looked into the research, and I kind of think now that article was a hit piece. Because there are actually a lot of these, like what they call democratic schools or child learning schools that are hippy-dippy, but there's a lot of freedom. And the numbers are actually incredible. Those kids do go on to do very well. Typically better than their peers. And then if you go to just unschoolers in general, they do very, very well. So I was like, okay. And I said to you, let's try it again. I know the kids have been in school for a little bit, but give me a year.
Right.
Let's do a year experiment, because what I had on my side was we had all of these curriculums, and we would do them for like couple of days, and then the rest of the week they would fall apart, and we would just read books, play outside.
Just not really anything structured.
Nothing structured.
Yeah.
Just live. But when Elijah, who was our oldest, went into school, he was in the 7th grade, and he took like a placement test. Not a placement to see where he should be, but it was the state tests. And he happened to arrive literally right as they were doing those tests. So he had to go right into school and take the state test. He was in the top of the whole class. I don't remember the numbers, but he was over the 95th percentile. And I knew that he had done that well through my failed homeschooling.
Right.
I was a terrible homeschooler, and yet he did that well. And so I thought, okay, that's interesting data. And so I said, let's try it for a year. And then, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work, and we can figure it out from there. But it did work, and here we are. We've unschooled the rest of our kids ever since. So that was 12 years ago. For the last dozen years, we've been unschoolers. We talk about it in another video on like what that means, how it works. We talk about that a lot, and I don't want to get too bogged down by that today, but I wanted to give you a quick sketch of our homeschooling journey. Now, the question was, though, what do we regret?
Or what did we learn?
What did we learn? If we could go back to ourselves, what would we change? And I have lots of things.
Yeah, I mean, the first one that came to my mind when we talked about this was, and I guess it's a learned and regret, but I learned that children are super resilient. They are not as fragile, and their learning is not as fragile as I don't want to, make an enemy of the public school system, but as the school system wants us to think that if they get behind, they'll like always be behind sort of thing. Or if they don't hit certain benchmarks at certain times, they're always going to be in trouble. And I learned that children are amazingly flexible and also different at when they learn, how they learn, and when they kind of reach certain, learning benchmarks. And that they just do it. You don't necessarily have to worry about it so much. So even if you screw something up, excuse me, my voice.
My voice.
Even if you screw something up and you think, oh, I just lost a whole year of whatever, it's like, it doesn't matter. That kid can learn a year's worth of stuff in like a month or less if they need to. Like our kids do it all the time. And so your kids are really smart. I don't know.
What's your regret? What's your regret?
My regret is that I was so stressed about it the whole time.
Yes.
So I was super worried about, oh no, like this one, he can't read as well as his peers right now. Like, what if he never really learns to read and, he's illiterate his whole life? Like literally you have thoughts like that.
Yeah.
Or he doesn't know his multiplication tables and he's this age. Like, is that a problem? I'm really worried about that. It's like, no, because they learn it when they need to learn it. And they catch right up really super fast. So take the pressure off yourself and realize these kids are going to be fine. If you are wanting them to learn and you're sort of actively engaged and sort of creating an environment where they can do that, they're going to.
So can I play devil's advocate?
Yes.
Because I can hear...
But don't be too mean about it.
I can hear people saying like, but why... What is that? Why? Why let them fall behind because you say they'll be able to catch up?
Well, I don't think it's about letting them fall behind. I think it's recognizing that if you want your child to actually learn something for reals, like actually learn it and it stick and it means something to them, they learn it when they're ready to learn it.
So your regret is not understanding that they learn things when they're ready to.
Yeah, and by forcing it, you might get them to kind of take some of this information in and regurgitate stuff back to you, whatever. But it's not going to stick very well. But I've watched my children when they are ready to learn something and they're interested in it or they have a reason to learn it, they learn it and it stays. It stays in there. And it's not like there's so much from school that I have just has gone out of my brain. It's like it came in long enough to do it for the test and then it went right out. It's not that you're just letting them fall behind on purpose or something. You're just saying, well, they'll learn it when they want to or are ready to learn it.
I think that's our public school talking because our public school experience, because it's almost like a badge of honor. Like, oh, you're in the 4th grade, so you learned your times tables, or like you're in the 5th grade, so you learned your capitals, or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so it's crazy how much the curriculum and the benchmarks almost become like a framework of childhood.
Yeah.
And you all are aware of oh, did you have Mrs. So-and-so? Did you learn this? And so it is kind of a deconstruction you almost have to do because you think, well, how will they learn about ... because, that's what or they're about the age of a third grader. And when I was in third grade, I knew this thing.
Yeah, this fact or this
Yes.
math concept. And it's true. Like, well, that was just made up by people anyways.
Well, it's an order that was made up, right? And so you are comparing apples to oranges, but man, that can like poke through and stress you out like crazy.
Can. And it's not like I'm still not sometimes stressed about it because you watch your kids. But that's a lesson. Don't be so stressed.
Yeah.
That's a learned lesson for me.
Yeah, I think if I could go back, I probably wouldn't. I would have. It's the same thing as Mike. I would have felt confident in the choices that I was making. I think you almost feel like you have no sovereignty as a parent. Or like, how dare you take sovereignty over your own family? And so you feel like you need permission to do the things you're learning or doing, the choices you're making. And so either for me, I was looking for research, numbers to say, see, this is okay. Or like, I know so-and-so and they did this thing, so now it's okay. And like, I think that's important. It's important to be well-informed and be making decisions with wisdom. But also, I knew, like I said, I already understood that I was shaping Elijah's worldview, but I didn't feel like I had the sovereignty to keep moving forward in my role as his, world builder mother or something.
Right.
So I wish I hadn't been pushed around so easily.
Just by other outside.
Oh yeah, I was constantly, and anything could just spiral me. So yeah, like you'd meet somebody and they would say, so how many hours a day do you spend in homeschooling? And you're like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't want to tell you. We literally were always like refining our like elevator pitch. Right?
Yeah.
Of like, and even working with our kids because they would be like, we don't do
listen,
anything.
that's something I learned from homeschooling. Everyone needs to get their story straight, okay, about how this goes at our house.
Because your kid's like, I don't know, we don't do anything.
We gotta have a consistent
Our teenagers
story.
still do that. They just told me this week. They still tell people like, I don't know, we don't do anything. And it's like, oh my gosh,
they
guys.
are doing things.
I
Doing
know.
lots of things.
Well, so
But
I guess
anyways.
I could be pushed so easily. I wish that I had said, when people had asked me about like, aren't you scared about this? I was terrified, right? But I wish now I say, no, not at all. I really do. And I say, I want my kids to feel this and this. And like, I think it's crazy to send them off. I think it's crazy to like think that I need to do that. I think helping them learn and grow into the people they're supposed to become is an exciting, natural, fulfilling, path, and I want to be a part of it. I wish I had spoken with ease and excitement and confidence instead of like I was constantly on trial. Constantly. Anybody would hear you were homeschooling. I think sometimes people wanted to know because they were considering it, but I still felt like, well, let me go get up in the witness stand.
Yeah.
All right, what are your questions? Let me prove to you that I am a good homeschooler and a good mother. Yes. And they'd say, well, what about this? And I would be like, well,
What about socialization?
But it's like, and at night laying in bed, I'd be like, you know what? I never say to them, like, well, aren't you worried about, public school doing this to your kids? And are you? And I was always like, But I wish
that's not a lesson learned. You got to feel better than everyone else who doesn't
no,
homeschool.
I just
That's
wish
important.
that I had been. I mean, because obviously now I know what an incredible journey we had, an adventure together as a family, and how it was like the best. I literally like have offered so many prayers of gratitude to God because deciding to homeschool and then unschool is literally one of the best decisions we ever made for our children. I could cry about it. I wish that if I could go back and say, you know what, you're not crazy. You're not doing something risky or scary. You're doing the happiest, most natural, exciting thing in the world. And it will pay huge dividends for you and for your kids. So like, I wish that I could just go back to her and be like, just be like a hippie when people ask you and say, no, I'm not worried at all because I think school is super toxic and like we're having such a great time. And like, or if they ask like, how will they learn math? Like, oh, they're going to be fine. They're going to learn math, I promise. And like, I wish that I'd had that. I wish that I could give myself that gift, but like, I kind of had to it was a path we were kind of, what is it called, forging ourselves. And that's a blacksmithing word. Do you forge a path? Well, anyways.
I don't know, clear a path.
Yeah, we were walking through tall grass and we were the first ones to go through it. It will be easier for our kids to homeschool, and they are planning on it, and they won't be so laden with fear.
And this is another lesson learned, is that if you can do this and you can see it through to the end, then your children will have that much easier time of doing it themselves, and they won't have some of the hang-ups that you had at the beginning. And you might be going through, it might be a little rougher for you, and you might feel like you're making mistakes, and you probably are. But
of course,
like we said, we all make mistakes. Listen, everybody hurts their children in some way, you know.
Yeah, but here, when a public school teacher makes a mistake, they don't correct that. They just send your kid to the next grade. If they say some horrible thing and make your kid all year feel like a dummy, or like, you know, I had that teacher who said like she announced to the class that when I grew up I was going to be digging ditches, that I was like good for nothing.
This is a classic wonderful teacher moment.
Yes, I was in 7th grade, and she said I would amount to nothing, but like. She just moved me on to I was in the 7th or 8th grade, and then I just went on to the next grade. If I make a mistake as a mom, I have done something in the garden. Let's say if you're using the metaphor of a garden, my plant is now sick. I can see that, and I can remedy it.
Yeah.
And so I am the teacher all the way through. I'm the teacher and the parent and the guardian and the confidant and the counselor and all of those things. And so, of course, I make mistakes, but it's much, much easier for me to correct those mistakes than the ones that are happening in a building that I'm not in, and I don't know, any of those things. So
yeah, that's true.
I guess that would have been great. And there's so much more support in that way outside of maybe your friends and family, because like still, obviously, we haven't convinced anybody in our extended family to homeschool. We're the only ones that homeschool.
Nope. We didn't do a very good sales job on that.
Well, I'm just saying, like, I don't want you to think that like that we've done that, but we do have friends that homeschooled. And now, because of the internet, there's tons of online communities you can be with and find support from, and so that you don't feel crazy. Because the only support group I had early on in homeschooling would be these homeschool co-ops. And honestly, sometimes I'd go to that homeschool co-op and I'd say, I don't want to be with these people at all. I don't identify with these people at all. Or, and that would be okay. It's like, well, we're a ragamuffin group. Well, none of us, I guess, can buy jeans that fit our children. I guess that's
true for us.
That's just the thing. It's true for us, but none of us get haircuts, and we're all kind of strange. But then even worse sometimes would be meeting homeschoolers who were like, well, we start at 9 a.m. We usually finish by dinner,
Yeah,
You're like, what?
Listen, that's another lesson. There will always be homeschooling overachievers, and they make everybody look bad. Don't worry about them. Okay.
Well,
it's okay.
and honestly,
if you are one of those people, that's great, but it doesn't fit everyone's, personality.
Well, honestly, guys, the beauty of being, in my late 40s, I can't wait till I'm 50 so I can say the beauty of being in my 50s.
All right.
Is that we have watched people can say stuff that they say they do and that like makes you feel really bad. But like decades of association, you realize that, like when you're like, oh man, their life looks so great. It's like you're seeing a one moment in time. You realize that like most of us are just figuring it out.
Yeah, everybody has their struggles.
I would guess, I met one woman who said she had 2 kids. And she was, she had been trained to be a teacher that said she spent that many hours. I met her one time, maybe 2, and she told me that. I never saw her again. For all I know, she put her kids right back in school the next year because that was unsustainable for any of them. So I guess I wish I had. There's like a homeschooling community. I think they're called Wild and Free. I just heard of them a couple years ago, and I thought, that's brilliant. I wish I had had a community that helped me feel so joyous and confident in what I was doing. So that's my number one, and Mike's number one, I guess. We both wish we had been less stressed.
Yes.
And I think
there's obviously connect to that because it took us a while to go through it, but it's kind of the base kind of place to start. If you can just kind of release yourself of some of that.
Well, and really I think, making a list of your whys, and don't be afraid to put the ones on there that will offend other people. Because the thing is, nobody worries about offending you.
Oh, you mean like those who go to the public school?
Yeah, when they're like asking you questions and they're concerned, nobody worries about like
Making you feel bad.
making you feel bad. And so, you can put on your why list like I don't want my kids to go to school because of the toxic socialization. Because everybody always asks me like, aren't you worried about socialization? These days I'd be like, not at all. Are you kidding me? Are you really trying to convince me that public school is good for kids in the way that it's set up? Like, it is something that takes decades to undo yourself from. It really does. That crazy, like unnatural being with like hundreds of kids your age. And it's like where brains are all wired for like social hierarchies.
Yeah.
The craziest, most unnatural things happen. And like in the entire history of the world, we never did this. But now we put all of these kids together and it gets so weird. And everybody knows by the end, you've got all sorts of categories that you have labeled yourself with because they labeled you too. And like,
there's the
fears
few
and
who
like,
win and then the rest.
and then there's
sort of
the
thing.
rest of us, like the TV show Freaks and Geeks. I don't know if you guys have watched that, but I've never seen anything that's so accurate for how you feel every day of high school. And when you watch it as an adult, you're like, this is so absurd. Like, I can't believe we had to go through this. It's so absurd. And then there's all the absurdity of like, yeah, but it's an important part of growing up. It's like, so says you.
Yeah.
Like, actually, I think I would have been better off if I hadn't the grueling years of like, you're a loser, you're a freak, you're a geek, you're not a jock or you're not popular or a million other things. My high school, every, I think, quarter or so would release your ranking.
Yeah.
So you were supposed to go over to the like counselor's office and get your rank. That was a great day.
It was a great day for like 25 people.
Yeah, well, my school was pretty big, and so it was like, are you in the top 25%?
Yeah.
And then I was not in the top 25%. And
what?
Like, I remember being at the lunch table once, and they were like, oh my gosh, so-and-so. And they're like talking about some like literal like pothead.
Okay.
Like, he's like in the third quarter or something like that. They're like, oh man. And I'm like, looking at my number like, because I was also in the third quarter of the class,
And
like,
you didn't have
they're like, what about you, Megan? And I absolutely lied and said like, oh, I haven't gone over and checked it yet. But I think that time was the last time I checked it. I'm like, why am I doing?
Do I bother?
What is this? What is this?
You're at the potheads. You didn't even get to experience
I know,
the pot.
I know.
You didn't get to
Because all my friends were like, straight A people in like goody two shoes, and then I didn't find my crowd.
You were still a goody two shoes.
I was a
You
goody
just
two
weren't,
shoe. I didn't care
top
about
of your
school.
class.
I didn't care about school. I didn't care about school. But
that was the sad thing. I cared about school. I tried, and I still didn't get very high up there. So
yeah.
whatever.
So there's all sorts of things. So I wish that so go back, make a list. I wish I'd done that sooner. I did eventually make a list of like 10 reasons I wanted my whys for homeschooling.
Yeah.
And like I was so nervous about injuring others' feelings that my whys at the beginning were like, oh, I would say stuff like, I think public school is great. I just wanted to spend more time with my kids. And I would always like make it really soft and palatable because nobody else was homeschooling, so I didn't want to hurt anybody's feelings. But like I said, they weren't doing that for me. So I wish I had just owned it a little bit more and said, well, I've looked at public school. I don't think it's great for kids. I don't think it teaches them very well. I don't think it helps them understand who they are. I think it's actually quite damaging to them. And I think it's actually not good for the family either. So that's why I homeschool.
Take that.
Yes, so I wish that I had come up with that why list and been much more transparent about it. Maybe some of our extended family would have homeschooled. Doubt it, though.
I don't know.
I doubt it.
I don't know. It's all right. I have another one, though.
Oh, you do?
So another one, and this kind of plays into what we sort of mentioned before, but I would have learned to trust my children a little bit more as far as them learning and being, I guess, following their interests and letting that sort of do the heavy lifting for their learning. Because that's something that we've seen happen over the years, is that when we got out of the way and let our kids explore what they're interested in, they learn a lot. They learn a lot of things that maybe aren't directly the thing they're interested in, but sort of play into that thing.
Yeah.
And so trusting your children and leveraging their natural interests
And their natural desire to learn.
yes, is huge. And so that's a huge lesson for me, is like kids want to learn. They really do. I think school makes you think that they have to be forced to do so, but because that's what happens there. But kids, when they're left, I mean, not completely to their own devices. It's not like we said, okay, you can do this,
Yeah.
Anyways,
That's a
I'll leave that
caveat.
out.
No, that's a caveat because
Yeah.
when you say like get out of the way, like we don't mean get out of the way parenting wise, and I hope we've made that pretty clear. We were always, our job is to raise and protect our children, but get out of the way in like our like
Yeah.
head junk.
No, yeah. If you want to spend all day reading about Japanese bamboo, no
Which
problem.
Elijah did.
Yeah, I have no problem with that. If you really want to dig deep into some medieval art or medieval literature, which is what Andrew wants to do, have at it.
Yeah. Or
Doesn't
when they were
bother me.
younger, if you want to spend all day in the yard by yourself in a sword battle with some unseen foe,
Yeah. That didn't bother us.
no.
Well, it kind of did because we were worried a little bit at the time, but we started to let that happen more and more because we started to see like, wait a minute, they're actually like learning stuff and
Yeah.
they're making connections and they're building on that with other things.
Yeah.
So that's pretty huge.
Yeah, so if I could go back and do it again, I would get quicker to filling our life with beauty. I would get quicker to filling our life with like all that implies art and music and great cinema and books and locations, museums, experiences. I would get to that sooner. Now, another thing I think about when we started homeschooling, we were in Utah, but we eventually went and bought a house up in Washington State. And it was the ideal place to be unschoolers, to be honest, to be failing homeschoolers. That's why we were failing, because we lived on that mini farm that we talked about with the llamas. And so the kids were out, we have the funniest photos of them sometimes out naked, but wearing like mud boots. I'm talking about like toddlers.
Yeah, this is little kids.
Toddlers that are outside and they've ripped their diaper off, but they're like riding a llama with boots and nothing
you're
else
right.
on.
The llama.
But they're
The famous
playing
llama photo.
they're playing in the bushes, they're playing under apple trees, they're playing in the woods, they're building dams in a little creek, and like they're swinging in swings, they're, building forts. And it was away from the world. It was away from, because we had read the book when they were younger,
Last Child in the Woods.
Last Child in the Woods, and realized this is actually why we moved up to Washington, because we were homeschooling in Utah in a neighborhood packed with children. Mm-hmm. And it had like sidewalks and it had swing sets. But Last Child in the Woods kind of talks about how like children that swing sets and playgrounds don't actually do much for their brain.
Right.
It's actually wild spaces, because when you go to a playground, the very first time you go, you're like getting to know it. But every time you go after that, you don't have to use your brain much anymore because you know the space. But nature changes constantly. And so just engaging them constantly and requiring so much of their brains, and how kids don't go outside anymore. And so we moved up and spent the next 4 years up there on that farm, for that gentleman's farm, for that very reason. And if I was talking to somebody now, I would say get out as close to nature as you can, because it will do so much of the heavy lifting for you.
Yeah. Well, and this is partially why we want to do that. We're trying
Do
to
it
move
again. Yeah.
That's why we're going to go to Virginia, because we had to be here for some things. But anyways.
Yeah, and in fact, that was reiterated to me when we went to our first homeschooling co-op group, where they would go one day a week. So I guess moms could still have a day, to get stuff done. And they had it was in a public school, and the classroom had a big poster that said the life cycle of a chicken on the poster.
Yeah.
And I just thought, that's so funny. This like older elementary school class has to learn the life cycle of a chicken on a poster. But we're with chickens. Like, it's like
At home, yeah.
Yeah, you learn it like that. You learn it for reals. I don't know how much you learn looking at that poster. It's just funny that the poster even needed to be made, or like you know the seasons better than any class, social studies or science class teaching you about the seasons.
Right.
Because you're experiencing them, you're in them, and then you're watching like, oh, look at the little like plants coming out of the ground. Or I remember the day that we saw all of these ladybug colonies like erupting.
Oh, yeah.
So we got to go out there and watch thousands of ladybugs now like all leaving their, nest and heading out into the world. And we watched, the kids found bones and feathers, and we would go research what the feather or the bones were from. And we found owl pellets. We heard owls. So much learning happens. And the other thing I didn't understand is, because I went to public school, I thought learning was, your alphabet, your multiplication table, your, these facts, this data. That data is what you needed to pour into your children. Mm-hmm. But you do start to realize, like, I don't really remember almost any of the data that was poured into me over those 12 or 13 years. But what I know now is it is not the data. And I mean, especially now because of, technology. Yes, I love technology. Sorry. It's not the data. Song. It's the ability to have a brain that can integrate the data, learn things, that can be creative and have creative thinking skills and like problem solving and strategic thinking and all of those things. And so actually getting kids into kindergarten, and now it's full day kindergarten, sitting at desks, does not help them do that. And so getting them out to play in the yard and in the rain and under the bushes and with all the animals is actually so amazing at developing a brain that once it gets that data, it knows what to do with it. It can apply it and interweave it and like think strategically and creatively and all of these things. And I wish that I had let them play so much more. Well, I did let him play.
Yeah, you just felt bad about it.
I did. I felt shame. And I did laugh. My friend said, I drove up to your house and all of your children were clothed, so I knew your mother-in-law must be in town.
This is when we had all boys.
And we lived out, in the country, and we didn't ever see anybody. But I wish I had filled our life with those sorts of experiences quickly and without guilt and without restraint. We did eventually move out to North Carolina. You would say, well, why would you leave the farm? Well, we had a lot of farm experiences and we liked that and we wanted to still be close to nature, but we also wanted to have more experiences with museums and history and like different landscapes, because we were up in Spokane or Meade, Washington, and it was spring break and we rented an RV. This is before we'd ever owned one. And we're like, let's go somewhere for spring break. But it was like 20 hours to anywhere, anywhere warm.
It was warm at least.
Yeah. And so we thought, well, North Carolina seems amazing because there's mountains, there's beaches, tons of history. Washington, D.C. is close. Florida's close. Just so many different things were so close. And so we moved out here. One of the top reasons was so that we could have more experiences.
Yeah.
And then we moved into an RV.
Yeah. And then we really took it to
for
the next
homeschooling
level.
as well. We recognized everybody was at their best when we were getting to experience things and firsthand. It is so different to be somewhere and be smelling it and seeing it and hearing it and feeling it and touching it versus reading about it in a textbook. And so for us, we never had like tons of money because you might be like, oh, I could never afford that. There's so many great programs, and even very expensive places often have homeschooling days that are very discounted.
Yeah.
Or if you call them and say, can we have like a school price? But just to experience even natural wonders, where you're at a creek and you're looking under rocks yourself.
I know, that's amazing. Just a creek can teach you so much. And your kids are happy to dig around in it and wade around in it for hours.
Yes. And guess what? If people aren't you worried that your kids will be weird? It's like, I'm not worried. I know they'll be weird. That's not a bug. That's a feature of homeschooling. I don't want them to be what is considered normal, glued to their screens, who don't like their parents, who aren't interested in anything. One of the craziest words that I doubt it's used anymore, but when our kids, a lot of them were teenagers, was called, you don't want to be a try-hard. Which just meant you don't want to look like you're trying at all, at anything. You always want it because that's vulnerable and that's uncool. Mm-hmm. And it's like, well, I want my kids to be weird then because I'd like them to be tryhards. I want them to be, because you weren't even supposed to be interested in anything.
Right, not too much.
Yeah.
Right.
And so like my kids, I got to see their eyes filled with wonder, which was weird, right? It's weird for kids to have wonder at 15. They're not supposed to be excited anymore about things. And so I guess I'm glad we moved from Texas, even though, it would have been great to homeschool there just so that I got to be with Elijah. But it is helpful to move close to nature. It's harder, I think, to give them those sorts of experiences in certain areas more than others or in certain neighborhoods, but you can do it. I mean, you just use your strategic thinking skills and find ways to get out into nature. I don't mean parks. I mean woods. I mean trails. I mean beaches and lakes, creeks.
Yeah.
And then libraries. Just because you could go and open books on any random thing. Now, another thing I wish I'd started sooner, I kind of did, but I didn't do it with intention. I wish that I had started hitting thrift stores sooner for books.
Yeah, great source of books.
So many books, because we were just racking up the public library late fees. I feel like we were left town in the middle of the night, so we didn't have to pay our library fees.
Luckily, those don't fall into other states.
There's a string of like fees from turning our books in late.
Warrants out for arrest.
I totally understand paying for books that you lose or destroy, but when they're just late, that's another thing. In fact, I don't think they do that anymore, because I think that they decided that was discriminatory.
Oh, okay. Well, perfect.
So sweet, right?
Nice.
They they say well, that was late and it was this much fine, but we're going to zero it out.
We're going to give you a break.
I don't know. Well, it's great. It's great. Because I was always looking over my shoulder, always a little worried that those library systems were going to come for me.
That guy from Seinfeld, Booker, or whatever his name was, going to come after
No,
you.
so I just wish that we have a collection of books now, and I love it, and I love that my kids can pore over them. And I think that books like that can also be wild too, that like you don't have just one book that you slide across the table and say, you have to look at this. It's like, let's just, take a break from doing this. Let's just spend some time in books. And I guess my last regret is it's a thing that I just wish I'd realized sooner. And that was that so much of the experiences I wanted to see our family having were up to me leading out as a model to all of them. And I knew that like I liked books and I would look at books or, anything along those lines. But I started to realize that the more I engaged in learning and in wonder, the more my kids did too. Because kids don't know anything. They don't know anything about what life is. They have no idea. They're new on the scene. And so you are constantly their information of what it means to be a human and absolutely to what it means to be an adult human. And so if you as an adult human don't spend a lot of time reading books and you don't play an instrument and you don't learn or acquire new skills and you aren't excited when you go anywhere, exciting in nature. If you go somewhere with them and then you just sit on a bench and look at your phone and you're like, well, why aren't you guys enjoying the woods? Things along those lines. I know how much it's nice to disappear into a phone and you may be frustrated about it, but you are teaching them what is valuable in the world and how humans interact with the world. And so if you want your kids to read more, then read. Read to them, but read yourself. Be buying books at the thrift store of things that you're interested in and be looking at them. If you want your kids to learn new skills, then you should model for them learning new skills. If you want them to play an instrument, it doesn't work perfectly this way, but why not try fiddle with an instrument? Learning new languages. I can't tell you how many times people say, how do I get my kids to ... And I want to say to them, do you do that? Your kids are not like a little accessory you get to design and like put little charms on. Like I want to design a child who knows 3 languages and plays 2 instruments and is really athletic. And like you just like assign them those things, Children get to develop into an adult. But if you'd like them to be excited about a subject, you have to show them that it's exciting. Not just because you tell them, but because you're excited about it. And so you're going to need to go down those trails with them and walk through the woods with them. Not every time, right? Because eventually they won't need that. But like you have to kind of still have a sense of wonder and a desire to learn. And if you modeled for them, that's what humans do and that's what adult humans do, they will grow into adult humans who love to learn and who have lots of skills and who are always acquiring new ones. So as much as I know that can be heavy for a homeschooling mom, you do kind of set the precedent or the model for what it means to be alive. And if you want your children to accomplish all of these things, you kind of have to model for them the type of life that would lead to that. So I wish I'd learned that sooner. I don't regret at all homeschooling. I think we said that already. It was the best decision.
Yeah, for sure.
One of the best decisions we ever made. I don't regret unschooling. I wish we'd gotten to it sooner, but I guess we both, number one regret is that we just didn't lean into it and release ourselves.
Yeah. and not worry so much.
Yeah.
Your kids will be fine. And they're more likely to be fine under your care than under someone else's care. So
absolutely.
I'm not saying that other kids can't be fine, but I do think there's higher possibility they'll be in good shape with you. So don't worry so much.
Well, if you're worried, especially.
What's that?
Because especially if you're worried about it. You're trying to figure it out.
It's good to be worried.
That's a good sign.
This is a sign that you care.
Yeah.
But it isn't a sign that you should be giving up.
Yeah.
It's just a sign that you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, and you just keep moving forward and figuring it out. So
yeah. So go find a community. If it's just us, we're here for you. But if you can, find a community of people that aren't worried about your choices and who want to have some of the same goals as you, so that when everybody else thinks you're crazy, at least they don't.
Yeah.
It'll lighten some burdens. But I promise you that if you hold on and you get to the other side, all of the people that were scared will now say, well, looks like you made the right call.
Yeah.
We've had
those. Look like
we've had the people that were most scared in our lives about our homeschooling for many, many years come back to us and say, looks like that was the right call. So you'll get there.
Yep.
And it will be a blessing. And I hear you, Jilly, and it's worth it. And keep going and make that list and trust that it's all going to work out. Thanks for the question. Until next time, guys. Bye.
Bye.